Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you. This is another presentation from www.central-mosque.com and from the Humble Heart YouTube channel. And the topic today is the need for Madrasah, Maktab in Americas and Europe. Those who know me in my personal life know that I have just a tiny bit of experience in this area, which sort of qualifies me to talk about this subject. If after watching this video you need help, drop me an email on info@central-mosque.com and it is my promise that I will give you my phone number and I will help you to the best of my ability. I have never been to South Africa, so I have no idea about their madrasa system, so I will skip this topic altogether. I have direct knowledge of Britain and Europe over the past 20 plus years. In Britain, Muslims from South Asian backgrounds live in clustered areas of the city, so due to high concentration and close geographical density, it's alhamdulillah fairly easy to have a local Maktab Madrasa system and to run it efficiently due to community support. Step out of these majority South Asian Muslim density areas in Britain and other areas of UK are better but not at the same level. So for example, there's a difference of night and day between Leicester and Cardiff or Blackburn and Swansea when it comes to the local Maktab system. This issue is exacerbated and easily seen in Canada. Outside of Toronto and a few major cities, the Maktab Madrasa system is not as strong in the rest of Canada. Muslims in Europe struggle to set up mosques and Islamic institutions primarily due to two reasons in my observation and opinion, and the impact of these reasons differ depending on where you are, but sometimes they both converge. Reason number one, Islam is not officially recognized as a religion, so you cannot legally set up mosques and maktabs and Islamic schools, etc. in many parts of Europe. Number two, European Muslims are not as financially well off and influential in the society as British Muslims. I've seen some good examples of excellent madrasa maktab systems in Europe and in South and Central America, but it isn't mainstream as it is in Britain. The immigrant Muslims in the United States largely concentrated on secular education of their children, so the institutions which they set up reflected their priorities. From the 1980s, when I first witnessed this in my own country in America, the immigrant community had get-togethers in community halls and mosques, and on the weekend we had Sunday schools. So when the children went to colleges and universities, we had MSA, Muslim Students Association. The thought process was never geared towards daily madrasa maktab, so it never became mainstream. After this introduction, let's dive into the heart of the issue. We're supposed to provide tarbiyah to the children as parents, which means molding of the child's mind. Children learn through social interaction. When you have someone teaching Quran to your child on Skype, he or she isn't interacting and learning from peers. I'm not saying that teaching Quran on Skype in a one-to-one setting should be stopped. I'm saying it isn't enough. Sending your child to Sunday school in America or Saturday school, as in many European countries, for 4 to 5 hours is also not enough, because your child is being influenced 6 days a week in the opposite direction. Once again, it's a good thing that at least they're getting some interaction and some Islam. Bottom line, you need to understand that in order to bring a young Muslim boy or girl, he or she needs to interact with others on a daily basis, consistently and constantly. You hear stories of many Muslims who rediscover and come to Islam in their university. Alhamdulillah, they come back to Islam, but we shouldn't have lost them in their youth in the first place. By the time they're in university, in many cases, it is already too late. To me, and as I've heard from many scholars, setting up maktabs is a priority in your community. It is a bigger priority than setting up mosques and Islamic centers. Whatever funds you have, however limited they are, should be spent on education. You can pray in basements, warehouses, have multiple shorter congregations if the place is small. Yes, if you have too many people coming for Friday or Eid prayers, have multiple congregations and shorter sermons, but do not shortchange on the education of your children. So how do we accomplish that in Europe or America? Since my youth, there's one thing I've never understood is this mosque committee business. How do we have a botched up corporate structure to run a religious organization? It makes no sense. It is neither fully corporate nor fully Islamic. Today's business demands your structure to be as flat as possible and as nimble as possible for you to be able to react to market trends. More on business management in some other presentation before I get totally distracted. Flip this structure on its head. Make a separate madrasa committee and let the entire community brainstorm on how to educate your children. Involve everyone, and I do mean everyone. Involve the sisters with the appropriate Sharia guidelines, and the entire community needs to think and make education priority numero uno. Number one, you know your budget, you know your community, you will quickly know your strengths and weaknesses. But by Allah, start with a Maktab committee or a Madrasah committee and start it sincerely. A fancy carpet in your mosque or Islamic center isn't necessary. But Islamization of a young child is critical and essential. By the way, from experience, I can tell you the funds which you gather from your maktab will also help run your mosque. Many small communities invest in buildings or rent a place and then get into debt. Their concentration is then diverted towards paying this debt. Stop making this mistake. Think of madrasa as a business. You don't buy a premise or a place and then grow your business. You grow your business, and then once it's grown, then you buy premise because you can afford it. Also, many Muslims buy or rent a separate property just because they don't get along with the local mosque committee. All I can do is warn you that you will get into major debt and stressed out. Stop wasting money which you don't have. The second most important thing is curriculum and system. You may be surprised that I'm not talking about Tajweed and Quran. Madrasa is there to provide tarbiyah to your children and not just teach them how to recite the Quran. For English speaking societies, I recommend that you Google and look into these three systems: Gift for Muslim, Safar series, and An-Nasiha books. I do not believe that countries like America and Canada should invest in a separate system at this time. Look at any of these three systems, look at your circumstances, and adopt whichever you see is best. Non-English countries should translate and adopt one of these series. Once again, if you're listening to this from a non-English speaking country, email me if you need further information. The schedule or timetable or routine needs to be designed around your community and levels of students. Tajweed should be done on a daily basis, and each period should be no more than 45 minutes, 40 minutes to be even better. You don't need specialized teachers other than Tajweed. Even for Tajweed, which is basically teaching children recitation of the Quran, you may even find people in your community who know Tajweed. Let me, however, warn you, not everyone who's ethnically Arab knows Tajweed, and not every qualified scholar can teach children. Teaching children is a specialized field, and you have to have the aptitude for it more than the qualification. If you start teaching with no experience, within a few months, you will figure this out. And by the way, these curriculums that I have showed you, particularly all three of them, if you know how to deal with children, they actually give you very good guidelines, even you may not be qualified in the subject, to teach you. So start somewhere, somehow. If you don't have the resources for the time being to do this, gather children at a location at a set time, get a teacher remotely and teach them online. I've heard many times from smaller communities who say that we don't have the resources to get a second imam. Get a few tablets or a few phones, put them in a class, and let the children learn collectively, remotely. But I can tell you from experience that in the beginning it is very exciting, but very soon children get distracted, and it is very hard to control children online, but it is better than nothing. I would like you to consider these initial thoughts, and I make dua that it changes someone out there, even one mind who listens to this and who can organize this within their community. Jazakallahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.